Emily walked into the office that morning feeling like she had dressed up for a role she was never meant to play. Her reflection in the glass doors staring back at her with forced confidence wrapped around quiet insecurity. Because only minutes earlier her boyfriend had brushed past her, already late, already irritated, casually announcing that he and Carmen were meeting the new CEO while completely forgetting that he had promised Emily she would be going with him. And when she mentioned the dress she had carefully chosen and paid for with weeks of saving, he dismissed her concern with a careless shrug and an even colder remark about Carmen's red dress being nothing special, something cheap she probably bought herself, and in that moment Emily felt smaller than she ever had before, like she had slowly faded into the background of her own life, but the universe clearly wasn't done with her humiliation yet. Because just as she turned the corner near the elevators, lost in her thoughts, she collided with someone solid and confident enough to barely move while her coffee splashed all over his crisp white shirt. And when she looked up to apologize, her breath caught as she recognized the one face she hoped she would never see again. Jack Parker, the same Jack who had haunted her university years, the embodiment of arrogance, charm and cruelty wrapped in expensive cologne and effortless confidence, standing right in front of her as if he had climbed straight out of her. Worst memories, and before she could even finish apologizing, he smirked, teasing her about saving him from a coffee disaster and demanding repayment in the form of a kiss, which only ignited the resentment she had buried for years, leading her to snap that she would rather drown in spilled coffee than touch him. A declaration that only amused him further. Because Jack had always enjoyed pushing her buttons, and when she demanded to know what he was even doing there, the answer came moments later when the conference room doors opened and everyone froze, calling him boss, and suddenly Emily realized that the boy she once despised had returned not just as a man, but as the new CEO of the company she barely survived in. And when someone introduced her dismissively as the secretary, Jack repeated the title slowly, almost savoring it, his eyes locking onto hers with a familiarity that unsettled her, as if he had planned this encounter long before she ever stepped into the building that day. And from that moment on, her entire reality tilted. Because instead of sending her away like any other executive would, he demanded her presence, her coffee, her attention, casually making her the center of the room while everyone else watched in confusion, including her boyfriend, who suddenly saw opportunity where Emily only felt dread. Whispering excitedly about doors opening and connections being made, completely oblivious to the storm building inside her. And when Jack suggested a business lunch and insisted that Emily join him, the whispers grew louder, the judgment sharper, and her humiliation deeper, especially when another employee cruelly pointed out that someone like Jack would never be interested in someone like her. Words that sliced through her chest and echoed louder than she wanted to admit, because deep down she feared they were right. And yet she couldn't shake the feeling that Jack wasn't acting randomly, that he wanted something from her, something far more deliberate than flirtation. And her suspicion only grew when he handed her a dress in the elevator, telling her bluntly that she wasn't wasn't going anywhere with him looking like a mess, giving her just enough time to change while he turned his back with exaggerated politeness. And as she zipped the dress and looked at herself in the mirror, something shifted, because for the first time in years she didn't see a weak secretary. She saw the brilliant student. She used to be the girl who once intimidated professors and outperformed classmates, and when they arrived at the restaurant only to find no executives, no partners, just Jack casually eating fast food while contracts lay scattered across the table, Emily finally snapped, accusing him of humiliating her on purpose, of turning her life into a joke. But Jack only leaned back, unfazed, and told the room to let her decide, shocking everyone by placing the company's future in her hands. And despite her protests, despite being reminded that she was just a secretary, Jack looked at her the way he used to in university, challenging her intelligence, daring her to rise. And in that moment, Emily remembered who she was, pushing aside fear and doubt as she reviewed the contracts, trusting her instincts, choosing the one that would save the company from a disastrous mistake. A decision that stunned everyone and proved that she was far more than the role she had been trapped in. But just as she began to believe that Jack might actually respect her, that this wasn't all a cruel game, he set another trap, inviting her boyfriend into the room under the pretense of discussing a promotion, only to pit them against each other, forcing him to justify why he deserved advancement over her. And Emily stood frozen as the man she loved dismantled her worth piece by piece, calling her weak, easily manipulated, useful only as a stepping stone. Words that hurt far more than Jack's provocations ever could, because betrayal always cuts deeper when it comes from someone you trusted. And when Emily finally tried to leave, overwhelmed and broken, Jack stopped her, calmly announcing that the promotion was hers and that her boyfriend was fired, turning the entire power dynamic upside down in seconds. And while part of her felt vindicated, another part felt exhausted, because she realized how much of herself she had lost trying to fit into a life that never valued her, leading her to walk away from the relationship entirely reclaiming her apartment, her dignity, and her voice, even threatening to destroy his career in a moment of raw anger before realizing she no longer needed revenge to prove her strength. And when she stormed back into Jack's office with a resignation letter scribbled on the back of a menu, declaring him a jerk in the most unprofessional way possible, Jack laughed, not out of mockery, but recognition, admitting that everything he had done, every provocation and test, was meant to wake her up. To bring back the Emily who once drove him crazy because she was the only girl who never fell for his charm, the only one he could never control. And when she accused him of manipulation, he didn't deny it, simply stating that sometimes growth doesn't come from comfort, but from confrontation. And just when she thought she was done with him, with the company, with everything, she learned the truth. That the position she thought was a lie was very real, that the investors had already approved it, and that she wasn't resigning at all. She was taking over, stepping into a role she had earned, not because of favoritism, but because she was genuinely better, and as Jack amended the company rules with a smile, half joking about rewriting policies just to keep up with her, Emily realized that her journey wasn't about falling for a powerful man or surviving office drama, but about rediscovering herself. About understanding that sometimes the person who challenges you the most isn't your enemy, but the catalyst you needed to become everything you once were and more.